Well, hello, everybody. This is DeBolt with my new co-host,
Caleb Clark.
Yeah, and this is episode 19 of
Who's
Zoomin' In?
In?
Can we even say things at the same time in this format? I don't know. We try, right? Who's zooming in? Da, 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 da. And I think at the beginning of this, everybody got to see the new graphics, so they saw Caleb's cartoon face. Thank you, Kevin Van Hyning.
Thank you. I love it so much. So this series is here because we miss people. We miss our people. We miss meeting new people.
We do.
And we have a feeling that we're not the only ones. So this series is here to catch up with our old friends, make new ones, find out what's going on.
That's right. And today we get to make a new one. At least I do. You already knew this guy. There are some things Caleb has told me that he does not want me to talk about today. And I've got a pencil. I'm going to write it down.
So the first thing I don't want to talk about today is how shockingly easy it is to become a member of the American Rabbit Breeders Association.
Oh, I'll have to try later. Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, of course, if you want to talk about it after this, that's fine. But I think that it could get really distracting.
Well, their acronym, I wrote it down. It's ARBA.
ARBA,
yeah. Okay, but we won't talk about it. All right, number 2.
No. Okay, so I also don't really want to talk about the fact that I sort of slipped down a rabbit hole last night and ended up watching the Garth Brooks and Tricia Yearwood Christmas special from their home.
No, you didn't. It was
horrible. I don't actually think it's something that we should talk about, probably even after this interview.
Never again. Now, both of your first 2 things have referenced rabbits.
Garth and Tricia?
You said you went down a rabbit hole.
Oh, I did. I didn't even think about that. Okay.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is universally, I just don't think that it should be spoken about anymore. And that is how difficult it is to get your autocorrect on your phone to predict what you actually want to say.
Yeah, it doesn't even know who my contacts are. I know all of our expectations for our electronic devices, right?
I know, really. I mean, and I never want to talk about it again. Actually, I never want to type on my phone again, but you know, whatever.
All right. I will send you a horrible non-auto-corrected text after the interview. All right, episode 19. I can't even believe it. Woo, Lord. We are almost to 20.
Some of you may have watched a YouTube series that I had called Caleb Clark is Here. And this person we're about to meet is involved with one of the companies I promoted there. And I've just been really blown away by their work.
I stalked him on the internet and I found out that he also was a high school teacher. So we have that in common. He taught high school English for 13 years in Philadelphia at his former academy where he actually attended as a student, and then taught in Athens, Georgia. And then his wife's parents, I think, moved to Birmingham. And so they were sort of drawn here, and he ended up being assistant principal at John Carroll Catholic High School. So they moved to Birmingham. And another thing that you didn't even know about him is that he has written and produced 2 albums. I wrote in quotes, albums. I love that, albums. 2 albums of music, of original music. So we are going to meet one of the coolest guys. Would you join us in the Zoom room, Mr. Brian Connell? Come on in. There he is.
I'm zooming in.
Hey, he's zoomed in and he's not even sweating. Look at that.
We'll do an arm check at the end and see how it
check. That's right. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Look at your shirt. There it is. I just noticed Desert Island Supply Company.
With a disco ball as the O.
What's the O?
It's a disco ball.
A disco ball.
Yeah.
I love it. Disco. So Caleb, when he told me about this company, Desert Island Supply Company, tell us first where the name came from.
So we are a creative writing program and nonprofit for students in Birmingham, and we are founded by Liz Huey and Chip Brantley. And they came up with the idea of the Desert Island Supply Company because they wanted to create a central theme around which they could build their writing programs for students. And their idea was that the desert island is this metaphor. The desert island is anywhere where you feel alone or stranded or lost or adrift in the world. So, which we've all felt probably at some point or another. And so, and with our students, we start with the idea that the blank page in front of them is their desert island. It's like empty and it's desolate and it might be a little bit scary, but we are going to work with them as they develop the tools they need to navigate that space.
How long has this company been open?
Since 2012.
Wow. So it's still relatively new. I mean, that's what,
Coming
in
up
your
on 10
ninth
years.
year.
Yeah.
When did you move to Birmingham and start working with disco?
My wife and I moved here in 2013 from Athens, Georgia. And we didn't know anybody except for my wife's parents and her sister and her sister's family who lived here. We didn't know anybody in Birmingham, but some of our friends in Athens, Georgia said, you're moving to Birmingham, you have to meet Chip and Liz, who are these great, like, you know, literary people. They're writers, they're journalists, poets. And they just opened this like creative writing space in Birmingham. And so when we moved here, we didn't know anybody, but we did know about disco. And we visited disco for a volunteer session one Saturday. And the second we walked in, you can see the space behind me. It's a really kind of mystical, magical, whimsical place. And the second we walked in, my wife, Kristen, and I were kind of like, where are we? What is this?
Yeah.
There's something cool about this. And we hung out with Chip and Liz and others here. And when we left, we just said, these are our people in Birmingham. We found them, like just a month into our move to Birmingham, we found them. So, so we became friends with the Brantleys, and a few years later, they were in need of an executive director, and the stars aligned the way that they did, and it worked out for me to start working here.
Yeah, I've got the picture up on the screen of what the inside of it looks like. It's where behind you, where you are in your Zoom window right now. So, Caleb, did you go in there?
I did, and I was going to say one of the really cool things about the way they have that space set up is that it really does feel like I was there to take some pictures and to talk to Brian and to sort of get an idea of what they do. And it really does, you know, in line with the metaphor of sort of having your own scary, stark desert island, it really does feel like this place that channels energy into something that you can sort of, I wanted to sit down and just be quiet for, 3 hours and write. And so, I mean, just as far as the concept, everything just ties in together so well.
It looks like is it quiet during the day when the kids are at school, and what do you do during the day there?
Yeah, it's very quiet. And I've never had a more productive space to work in, especially because I'm used to working in schools where it's like mayhem and there's always something weird happening. And, there's the work that you set out to do in a school, and then the work that just kind of shows up at your doorstep. But here, it's a beautiful place to work. I mean, every day I come here, I'm kind of like, I can't even believe this is my workplace.
Yeah, is that if you do what you love, it's not working at all, is it?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your programming.
So we are in Woodlawn, and Woodlawn's really we're headquartered here, and the schools in Woodlawn are our home base. And so before the kids even get out of school, during the school day, in normal times, we bring our writing workshops into the schools at Woodlawn.
Okay.
And so on any given day, groups of our disco teachers and volunteers go into the Woodlawn schools, and that's Putnam Middle, Oliver Elementary, and Avondale Elementary, and then Woodlawn High School as well. And we go in on a weekly basis with the same classes from week to week, and we do writing workshops with the students. And we mostly focus on poetry because we find that poetry is a good gateway.
It is.
It's like the gateway drug of literature. So
Even though they might be scared and like, oh my gosh, I can't write poetry.
At Disco, we tell the students, like right off the bat, that poetry does not have to rhyme. Poetry does not have to be organized. Poetry can break the rules that you're used to following, or that might stress you out a little bit. And the poetry, all you need is your imagination and to start putting words on the page. And so our students learn pretty quickly that they can do it, which is a nice shot in the arm, I think, for a lot of students.
You are, before we started the interview, you said that you're actually a book of poetry in front of you. Would you, since we're talking about the kids and their poetry, do you have one that you could share with us in this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, do that.
So the students write poetry every week with us, and over the course of the year, each student, develops a little portfolio of their own original writing. And at the end of the year, we collect all of the poems, or kind of the greatest hits of the poems from that year, and we compile them in an anthology. So this is Forgetting How to Spell Remember. It's the 2020 poetry anthology from the Woodlawn Writers Corps, and it includes poems by students in the 2nd through 12th grades in the Woodlawn feeder pattern. I'll read one from we call them the littles, the elementary students, or the littles.
Yeah. And people can buy these books on your website, right?
You can buy them on our website at discobham.com.
Okay.
This is our 8th anthology. So we have, a nice little line. This is Starbursts.
Okay.
By Jalen B. at Oliver Elementary School. And it's about Starbursts, the candy.
Okay. The candy, okay.
Yeah. Starbursts are very sour. To me, they taste like power. Orange, yellow, pink, and red. Get those starbursts in my head. Starbursts make me so excited, like it's my birthday. I'm delighted.
Oh
and that was part of our odes. So we do a unit on odes where we teach students how to write odes, and we read a bunch of odes, and we explain that an ode is a poem that tells something how awesome it is. So Jalen chose to write about Starbursts.
Oh, that's great. How old is Jalen?
He is in the 3rd grade.
So what, like 8? I mean, how precious.
I'll read a high schooler's poem. This is by Tanaya Y, and she is an 11th grader at Woodlawn High School. And this is called Where the Grass is Brown. I am from where the grass is brown because of parked cars and where guns are shot, where mom doesn't say a word, just gives a look, where C's are not accepted in the house, and Sunday dinner is cooked as if it were Thanksgiving.
Did that come from an IM, sort of a prompt session, or?
It did. So we read a few poems about where people are from. And then the students took that idea and created their own poems based on those poems that we read.
That's great. So I love that. And how many poems are in the collection?
There are about 400 poems in this collection.
And you know what is incredible is you can read them before you realize you've read the entire book. When I was researching Disco, Brian gave me a couple of these anthologies, and I've got them in my bedroom, like where I can just access them at any time. And I realized the other day that I've read all 3. And I thought, I would just sort of flip through and find a poem when I wanted a poem. And all of a sudden, I've read all the poems in all 3 of these books, and you're just every time you let a page fall open, you're surprised by the insight that these kids bring.
Oh, I have learned so much during this pandemic because I have met Ashley Jones, who teaches at ASFA, who's a local poet. And I tell you what, I never was somebody that would read poetry or write poetry or do that, but I have discovered that it's so internal. I can read a poem that someone has written and find something inside myself. Unlike fiction, you read and you go to their world. Poetry, you read and you find something in you, which is really magical about it.
Well, I think that's the beauty of poetry. And I think a lot of students and even adults will get a little freaked out by just the idea of poetry because they feel like maybe they don't understand it, or it's some kind of a joke that they're not in or something, that they just don't get it. But I think that the beauty of poetry is just the space that it creates, that like the space of the line and the space of the stanza. And it's like what happens in between the lines and in between the words, where there's so much room for exactly what you just said, Tam, this kind of self-reflection or identifying with what's happening, or even like something that comes about that might not be intended in the poem, but it creates like almost a meditative space where you can find different things.
Yes. So how have you pivoted, March 13th, 14th, the world shut down here, right? So how has that changed what your program is about? I know you've probably have you gone totally virtual, or are you still seeing kids?
We have gone totally virtual. So we closed up shop when all of the schools closed. And as the schools were kind of figuring out what to do, we were sharing some content online through our Facebook pages and Instagram pages. We were doing disco daily challenges that were very short prompts, just designed to kind of keep the kids busy, and give the parents something to do with their kids. But when the school year started, we moved to Disco Digital, which is our virtual programming. And we're still partnering with Avondale Elementary and Putnam Middle and I3 Academy, which is the charter school in Woodlawn. And Disco Digital sees us doing small Zoom workshops. So we have, an entire fourth grade class that will break up into 5 different Zoom rooms with like 3 to 4 to 5 students in each Zoom room, which we found has been kind of surprisingly amazing. We were nervous about it because we're used to the big room and the whole class and sort of putting on a show for everybody. But the small group sessions have really unlocked something with the students. There's, I think, kind of nowhere to hide for the students, for starters. So they really have to be present in the Zoom room. But they also get more attention with each other and with our teachers. Our students have actually been more productive in these virtual sessions than they typically are in the full class sessions.
That's fantastic. And you talked about putting on a show. I'm going to share something silly. Caleb told me that there's a stage right in front of this mural. Is that right? So now
there is, it's not in the picture, but now we've since built a stage since that picture was taken.
So when the kids are back in, they'll be on that stage presenting poetry and doing things. And you've got a little bit of experience on stage. Look at that. Look what picture. Isn't Facebook a wonderful tool?
So that show that was there, we were opening up for the Del McCurry Band in Athens, Georgia.
Playing the guitar. Look at you right there.
That's me.
Do you have a harmonica?
What is this?
I have a harmonica rack.
Yeah.
Also.
I love it.
Is this bluegrass, Brian?
This was a bluegrass band that I was playing with.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that.
So Brian's got some on stage experience. So he knows a little bit about what it's like for those kids to stand up there and show their work and share their work with everybody.
Yeah, it is. It's a vulnerable thing.
It is.
So one of the things that really was pandemic inspired, because we were suddenly separated from our students, but we wanted to figure out a way to help the community and help teachers, especially who were, struggling with distance learning as like distance learning became a thing that everyone just quickly had to adapt to.
Right.
The first thing that we did was we collected some of our greatest hits from the Woodlawn Writers Corps, from our in-school programming, some of our greatest lesson plans and our favorite lesson plans. And we first compiled them into this book, which is called Stranded, Writing Lessons for Castaways of All Ages. And in this book, there are lesson plans for teachers.
Wow.
And they're full lesson plans that feature our students writing, and a bunch of like original artwork also by one of our in-house artists, Emily Starvis. And these books are like, they're writing lessons right out of the box. So
are they for teachers then?
They're for teachers or homeschoolers or anybody who finds themselves wanting to work with students and teach students how to write creatively.
Oh, that's great.
They're available also in the store. And so from that, then we created a video series. Each video is only about a minute long. It takes place on the stage behind me. And we have a disco teacher who reads a poem from the book. And then offers a short prompt to inspire the viewer to write a similar poem in the vein of the poem that had just been written.
Can people submit the poems they've written based on the prompt from the video?
Yes,
okay.
That's exactly what we're going to do. So as we're going to release the video series next month.
It's not even out yet. Okay.
No, it's not out yet. So they'll be released over the next month. And in the meantime, if anybody wants to see these or be alerted, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Desert Island Supply Co. And as those videos get released over the course of about a month, we will have little motivations or incentives to submit your own poem. You can win a shirt or a book or something from our store.
Oh my gosh. And there are actors all over town that if you run out of staff to stand in front and read these poems, I can hook you up with people that would love a chance to do something like this.
That sounds great.
Oh my God.
Hey, Brian, is Disco still on Patreon?
Yes, thank you for saying that. We do have a Patreon page. We have about 90 members of Patreon who give as little as $1 a month. I think our smallest level is $1 and our biggest level is $100. As you become a member, it's just a monthly donation to support our programs. We share with you some content. So actually our Patreon members have already seen the video, the first video, because they had advanced access as part of their Patreon membership. We are a nonprofit, so we operate fully under the support of grants and individual donations, community support.
Yeah, and then again, if people want to read the poetry, they can purchase the anthologies, they can promote your business with t-shirts and hats and all the other stuff that I saw in the shop on your website. Oh,
that's right.
It's so great. I can't wait to go in there. So if I would just come by and visit sometime, would you, if I was double masked, could I come in and check it out?
Absolutely. We've got hazmat suits. We've got disco branded hazmat suits at the door. You're welcome anytime.
Oh, that's our reality right now, isn't it? Oh my God. We have 10 questions that we're going to ask you, Brian Connell of Disco in Woodlawn, Alabama. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh my gosh, the coconut pie, the coconut cake at Chez Fanfan.
See, I'm not a coconut fan, but people have told me before.
I'm not either. It's crazy though. It's the creme anglaise that comes with it is like, my mouth, I'm starting to drool a little bit.
Just talking about it?
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Dogs or cats?
Cats. I have a dog and we have 2 cats. The dog is like, he's my son. He's my only son. So I have a special place for him, but cats at the end of the day, cats.
At the end of the day, cats. Number 3. Now, speaking of coconut cake, you got me thinking about it too, but do you still make a wish when you blow out your birthday candles?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. It's a
Every
must.
time. My wishes have become much more abstract though. I'm wishing for things, I'm like, for like peace of mind or like,
We had somebody that said, I make a wish when anybody blows out birthday candles, not just me.
Yep.
I love it. Hijacking the wish.
Yeah.
All right. So if you didn't live in Alabama, where would you live?
In this country, I think Vermont. I went to the University of Vermont for undergrad and Vermont's one of those places for me. And my wife went to summer camp there growing up and both of us just have this pull back to Vermont.
Okay, Brian, question number 5. If you could wear only one color for the rest of your life, what color would that be?
I think blue.
You're wearing blue today, so that makes sense.
I like blue.
That is the correct answer.
Let's hit question number 6. I love this question.
Okay, what did you collect as a child?
Oh my gosh, what did I collect as a child? I had an amazing sticker collection as a child.
Oh, fun.
It was like a thing that many of us, I don't know if it was like something that happened in the 80s where like they put out sticker books or what, but we all had our own sticker books and there were different pages for different types of stickers, like the puffy stickers had their own section in the book. Scratch and sniff, weird, always a weird. That's what I collected.
Stickers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a very 80s. You are right. Okay, question number 7, Brian. Are you related to anyone famous? And if so, who?
My older brother, Tim Connell, is a mandolin player. who's been featured on the cover of Mandolin magazine.
He's famous. He's famous.
He's kind of, you know, he's a professional mandolinist.
Yeah.
So I'm related to him. My great-grandfather started the Connell Funeral Home in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so in Bethlehem, the Connell family is kind of famous because the funeral home. So
yeah. Do you have to call ahead if you visit? Just
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Clear the street.
No drop-ins. Drop-ins scare them at the funeral home. But yeah, if you ever die in Bethlehem, let me know and I'll hook you up with it.
You'll hook me up. All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. I'll call
I don't
you
plan on it,
immediately upon death. That's awesome. All right, question number 8. Sweet or salty?
Ooh, sweet.
Yeah.
Coconut cake. Yeah.
The coconut cake. I've developed like a serious Oreo addiction in pandemic also.
Have you tried what are the new Lady Gaga Oreos? What's that all about? Yeah,
my daughters wanted me to buy the Lady Gagas just the other day in Target, and I nixed it. The colors kind of freaked me out a little bit, and I didn't know what I was getting into. So we got the Nutella kind. There's all these new varieties. I love Nutella. It's not so great in an Oreo.
We were talking at my house the other day that Oreo needs to sell a variety pack. Let me taste them all, just a small little variety pack so I can try all the weird Oreos.
They could be sectioned off in the case, like 6 of each.
Yeah, and they can tell you, have a little guide that tells you what Oreo it is and what anyway, if you're listening, Oreo, right.
Do it. Oreos are like such a hot topic because I'm like sitting on 6 or 7 different things I really want to say about Oreos, but it's like not the thing to do right now. There's like a big trigger for all of us.
Here's my last question, Brian. Musicals or straight plays?
Musicals, 100%. Oh my gosh. So my wife and I met in a musical. We met doing The Music Man at Marion Mercy Academy in 1995. My wife played the role of Mrs. Shin, Mayor's wife.
That's right.
And I played the role of Ewart Dunlop, who was on the school board turned barbershop quartet.
Yeah, so you were one of the barbershop guys. Nice.
I was. Yeah. Yeah. And
fell in love with the mayor's wife.
I felt it was the scandal that rocked River City.
It was trouble with a capital T. Last question. Are we ready?
Question number 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a total snooze, 10 being a bag of laughs, how funny are you?
Oh my gosh. This is a really hard question to answer because like in my heart, I think I'm really funny, but I would never say that out loud. I also find that I'm funnier in Philadelphia than I am in the South, where there's more space. There's more of an archetype in Philadelphia for like a short, self-deprecating guy. In the South, people are confused, I've found sometimes by irony. I shouldn't say that about the South. That's not a Southern thing. I feel like I'm really bombing this question now about how funny I am.
Explaining why it's so hard to answer the question. It's a great demonstration.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the question now as if I didn't say any of that other stuff. Right?
Okay.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a snooze fest, 10 being a barrel of laughs.
Right.
I am a 6.12.
Okay, 6.12. I love friends. Actually,
I realized partway through I was really limiting myself. I was shortchanging myself with 6.
Oh,
you're not be bound by fractions.
You're way higher than that. Thank you so much for joining us in the Zoom room today. I really appreciate your time. And I hope people will check your business out and support disco and buy the collections of poetry and come visit once this pandemic has whooshed its way past our lives.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to see everybody.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye, Kayla. Bye, Tam.
Brian.
Bye, Brian.
Brian. Cannell. Caleb. I know, I'm being silly. Caleb. Clark.
Caleb and Miss DeBolt.